for generously making it possible to bring together this year's international panel of dairy farmers from 5 countries to discuss some of those common topics with you today. Moderating the summit is Mr. Dennis Guy. Dennis is the founder and president of Ontario Agri Network and has received agriculturist status in recognition of his contribution to Ontario's rural communities for his lifetime of dedicated service in advancing agricultural communication. He is also the recipient of the Canadian Agri-Marketing Association's Best Agricultural Broadcast Programming for a Radio Series. Please welcome up to the stage and back to moderate his 2nd annual Global Dairy Summit, Mr. Dennis Guy.
Okay, we got audio here. Testing 1, 2. All right, okay. Thanks, Andy. There's 100. Oh, swing here, right? You know, whenever I hear that line about the, what was it you said, the lifetime achievement? I hear the line, if anybody here is a Wingfield Farm fan, there's a line in there. It always comes to mind whenever Andy says, or somebody says, the lifetime achievement. I always get the line, the guy said, so, to the old farmer, so, have you lived here all your life? And the farmer looks at him and says, well, not yet. Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 2nd annual, it was hand in hand with the 2nd annual Canadian Dairy Expo. This is the 2nd annual Global Dairy Summit. Last year, if you remember, we gathered an international panel to talk to you about the dairy industry in their individual regions worldwide. This year is no different. Same world, different country, but we've got them from all over the world. We can get the technology out of the way. All right, the purpose of the Global Dairy Summit, though, is to bring dairy producers together from around the world to gain insight from their personal and professional experiences, and as well as their plans and goals as successful dairy operators. Now, last year, we heard from dairy people from far away from Poland, Brazil, Wales, the United Kingdom, as well as from just across the border in the U.S. and from here in Canada. Continuing with that international theme, this afternoon we'll hear from summit guest panelists who come to us from the Netherlands. By the way, last week Graham explained the difference to me. What are the Netherlands and what is Holland? If anybody wants to know, ask me later, because I know now. So, Graham's here from the Netherlands. You actually heard from him just not too long ago. From Israel, from China, from the U.S., of course, again this year, and as well, 2 Canadians, one from our west coast in British Columbia, and as well from right here in Ontario. So I'm going to bring up the participants in just a moment, but first we have to say, I'm proud to say, the Global Dairy Summit would not be possible without the financial support and the very active involvement from our sponsors at Shergate, a Nutreco company feeding the future. I'd like to get a hand for the people from Nutreco because it really wouldn't be possible without them. So, I'm going to give you a brief rundown. The Global Dairy Summit is 90 minutes long. The first hour, until about 1:30 or so, we're going to hear discussions, conversations, possibly even debates from the various panel members that will be up here. We can bring them right up. At about the 1:30 mark, who want to hear from you? You'll see 4 mics up here. So at about 1:30, anybody that has questions, and last year, by the way, we had quite a few very good questions. Please come up to the microphone. That's in an hour's time. So without further ado, let's bring up our panelists.
Take the floor off.
We're bringing them up in order of the distance that they traveled. I'm going to suggest that China might be the farthest away. Can we please bring up to the stage Barrett Settle? Barrett is from, I'm not even going to try and say the name, but it's actually near Beijing in China. And Barrett will give you a bit of his background, because by the looks of him, you might be a little surprised that he is from China. All right, Barrett.
I speak very little Chinese, so I'll give you a very Chinese few words.
Can I have your attention, please? The Global Dairy Summit will be starting in a few minutes in the Masex Dairy Classroom in Hall 1. Again, the Global Dairy Summit starting in a few minutes in the Masex Dairy Classroom. Thank you.
And Happy New Year. It's Chinese New Year. This year's the year of the horse. So obviously I'm not Chinese. I'm actually from New Zealand. And it's been about an 8 or 9 year trip for me to end up in China. After dairy farming in New Zealand, my wife and I set it up and ended up in Indonesia. From Indonesia, I went to China for a year. That was 9 years ago. Back to New Zealand, and then I've got an international gypsy for the last 3 years.
Can I have your attention, please? We have a green GMC Sierra at 71, license plate 6723FF with blocking exhibitor trailers and needs to be moved immediately. That's a green GMC Sierra 723FF needs to be moved immediately. Thank you.
So I've been based out in China for the last 2 years, and recently joined the company Washtart Dairy Farms, based just out of Beijing, and today I'm here. So thank you very much to the sponsors today for getting me here, and thank you for turning on some wonderful videos. A great experience to experience, so amazing. Thank you.
Barrett Settle from China. Next up on stage, and I'm going to really try and get these slides right on the next one. Graham Twins, and he's from Kenmore, the Netherlands. Graham from the States.
Thank you very much again for being here. I think the slides will come up. I would like to introduce myself. I'm a farmer together with my brother and my son-in-law in the Netherlands, northeast part, and we have a family farm with not external investors, only the bank. Location, I told you already, 435 acres, and the herd size is almost 300 milking cows, and we are a type of freestyle farm in the and we are milking them since 2007 with an automatic milking system here well known as the Galaxy. But we are in the good circumstances that we have an excellent service right nearby. And it is really important, service is more important than anything. This is the farm, and on the left-hand side you see where my brother is living, and on the right-hand side you see the nowadays new barn with 300 cows inside. I'm proud to have my wife, Nina, on the right, and we have 3 children and 14 grandchildren all around us, and I meet them at least once a week. This is my quality of life. And we are living in an excellent place. Most beautiful place in the world, in my view. So, and I'm happy to go there always back. I'm really happy to see the tower again of my village, so now I know. And this is the only thing what we are doing on our field. All is done by contractor, only short no more. Thank you.
Lenny, I'm going to bring you up last so I don't have to mess with these slides. Dirk Young comes to us from New York City. New York State. And I'm going to let you say the name of the area that you're from.
Dirk Young, Skaneateles, New York. We built about 1,250 cows and 2,500 acres. Started out as a family farm. My dad bought the farm. It's 275 acres and 75 cows in 1960. And I farmed it all my life. Farmed it with my brother until about 6-7 years ago, and he decided to pursue other interests. My dad's still alive, but he's 80 years old. I farmed it with the help of about 20 farmers and a couple of junior partners. So that on your right, that's our heifer barn, and then the white building is the smaller building. That's actually our pleasure part of farming, where we have our horses that my wife and I enjoy. I'm happy to have my wife Karen here with me tonight for today. We actually don't raise calves in the greenhouse anymore. We used to. We did for 15 years and found we couldn't do a good enough job. We need to get them all in and all out. We harvest all of our own forage, and we grow our grain and corn for the cows, and we buy the supplements. We run the farm.
Next up, we have, and you just heard from Tom. Where's Tom Hugendorf? There's Tom right there. Tom, of course, from British Columbia. Beautiful area, Fraser Valley, British Columbia.
Hello again, everyone. This will be a little bit about our farm and my family. I'm married 32, that's something years. 2 kids. Don't tell my wife. 2 kids, 28 and 26. We're a little different. I farm my brother as well, his wife, and a nephew and some employees. We have what I call a fantasy farm. Telling the employees, it's a fantasy farm. They can have off whenever they want, they can work whenever they want, but they have to set their own schedule. I gotta have enough coverage for shifts. So that's how we kind of run our farm. Once in a while, my brother Drew does have a hiccup, and we actually have to really work because somebody messed up with the coverage of the shifts. But we try to make it a family atmosphere, a fun atmosphere on our farm. It's kind of a culture. Accountability is a huge thing on our farm as far as record keeping and trying to fix mistakes. For enjoyment, we do things like running, biking, holidays, try to have a good lifestyle. Because my father died when I was 17, he was 52. And so we also stop down the road, and that's part of why I'm out here sometimes talking to you. I enjoy this kind of lifestyle as well.
Brian Anderson is the hometown boy. If you look over that way, you can find a window. You can probably almost see Brian's farm. He lives a stone's throw from Brian Anderson.
Well, I'd like to welcome you all here to the snowy part of the world. We did put out that snow just for you, just from today. Yes, we have I'm here today with my wife of 35 years, Wendy, and we have a family farm. Myself, Wendy, my son-in-law, and 2 other employees work at the place. We have the 300 head, 140 milking most of the time, freestall operation, and we have a biodigester that we just got going here recently in April, and we milk the double tank milking product. We have an aerial shot there, and my daughter's wedding. I guess that would be from. And we farm about 600 acres. And we're pretty close to home. Experts are supposed to be more than 3 miles away from home, so this is a little nerve-wracking. The digester there, and then the bedding that we use I'm holding that there in the picture, and we're quite pleased with the bedding that we use under the cows. It hasn't affected our somatic cell count at all, and we feel that it's very comfortable and stays under the cows better than most beddings that we use in the past or shavings. We're very pleased with that, and cow comfort is a very big thing with us, and we feel that that's added to the cow comfort. And, we do have a pure herd of cows. There's a few jerseys and our listeners.
Hey, Brad. Because I can't walk and chew gum at the same time, I decided with the slides being the way they are, I'm going to bring up Lenny Kaplan, certainly last but not least. And Lenny's going to tell you about life on a dairy farm on kibbutz. Today you're going to learn what a kibbutz in Israel is. And we'll bring Lenny up to stage. He is our sixth and final panelist for the day.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lenny Kaplan. I was born in the United States, but I moved to Israel about 35 years ago. I actually went to volunteer on kibbutz, and I met a local girl there who ended up being my wife, and that's my life story since I've been living in Israel. I do have contacts in the United States, many of my friends are here often. But dairy farming is definitely something that I wasn't born into. I had no connection to farming at all in the early part of my life, and I became a dairy farmer after I moved to Israel. I apologize for the first picture, all the writings in Hebrew. That was the sign that we have in the entrance to the farm. Our farm is a kibbutz dairy, which means that it's a co-op. I won't get into all the details, but it means that all the members of the kibbutz, which is somewhat of a co-op community, are shareholders in all the agricultural branches of the kibbutz. So actually, we've got about 150 people who are families that are part owners of the dairy, but I'm the general manager of the dairy, and I also do consulting to several farms in Israel and in Europe. We have 350 cows. We milk 3 times a day in a double pen parlor. We have 2,500 acres of land, but in Israel, dairy farming is something very focused. We don't do the crop farming. We actually have other people that's their forte, and we buy the crops from them. In Israel also, we have very few free stalls because of the weather. It's almost impossible to hold the animals in closed barns. So we have what we call loose corrals. We have free breeze inside the corrals themselves. We do a lot of focusing on making the environment easier for them during the summer, but we'll get into that a little later. And like Tom mentioned, our farm is also very young staff. We try our best to make the farm as attractive as possible to young people. And like a lot of other farms in Israel, we have a very high production per cow. We run at about 14,500 kilos per cow yearly production. But I think we're world known for the longevity of our cows. At any given time, we have at least 10 cows that have over 100,000 lifetime milk production. And we had one cow that actually gave over 200,000 kilos of milk, and we were told that that's well done.
Thank you, Lenny. Ladies and gentlemen, your international panel for today's Global Dairy Summit. So everybody has touched a little bit on it when they explain their own operation, but I do want to clarify this. There is a growing belief in consumers worldwide, and we must understand that in today's modern era, the vast majority of people live in cities. a lot of urbanites today believe that a typical farmer is actually a corporate CEO. By the way, you each share a microphone. So there's a microphone here. Eric and Graham are going to share that one. Lenny, you share that one. Tom, Brian, you share that one. So let's start here. You've all made mention of it. But it's very, very important to understand the structure of your farm. Many of your farms are family. Some of your farms are not. Is your farm a sole proprietorship? Is it a true family operation? Then we move into corporate, which means there are physical and actual shareholders. Or is it state governed? All right, let's start here. The actual structure, and obviously in a lot of cases we're talking about succession planning as well. What is your structure? Why is it that way? Maybe it's just that's the way it is. And if you could change the actual structure of how your farm is currently structured in terms of ownership or operation, if you could change it, how would you change it? Barry, let's start with you. Yours is a bit different. What is the structure of the operations that you operate?
Is that right? Okay. Our farm is definitely run as a corporate. The holding company is based in the Cayman Islands, and then we have subsidiary companies in China for all the daily operations. It was founded by two Chinese Americans who made a lot of money in America and wanted to come back to China 8 years ago. So we're very much a corporate structure with shareholders, board. I report to the CEO, and the CEO reports to the board. I have very little contact with the board, but they ask me questions occasionally. I do not attend board meetings at this stage. We're what we call a wholly owned foreign enterprise, so we do not qualify for Chinese government subsidies. To answer the question, it would make my life a lot easier if we were based in China. It would make dealing with the local government a lot easier, and it would be a lot more financially sound and get a lot more subsidies.
So yours is, for all intents and purposes, a corporate structure. I found it very interesting. You're based in China, and yet your, and I'm going to call them the major shareholders, are actually Americans. The founders, what do we call them, founders?
Yeah, definitely the founders are American. One of the founders passed away 3 years ago. The other founder is our chairman. He's very actively involved in the company. I don't know the exact shareholding of all the shareholders, but most of them are definitely financed out of America. They might be working, they're either in private equity, there's a couple of private equity companies are our major shareholders.
Very good. Could you pass your microphone over to Graham? You have very much what we would call a family operation, but are you incorporated? Is your operation incorporated? Are there shares? Or what is the business structure of your dairy operation?
We do have a family operation still, and we want to go on with that. Ownership of the land is in the hands of the brother and me, and we do it in such a way that as soon as we are passed away, it is automatically going in hands of our sons to the next generation. We want to go on that because I'm a strong believer in a family farm, especially in our circumstances in the Netherlands. And so we do have also a succession plan on that. So my children know exactly what they do have to expect in the next future, what's going on in the farm.
I've got a question. As president of the Global Dairy Network, do family farms continue, to your knowledge, at least in Western Europe, do family farms continue to be the dominant structure for farms? I'm going to include Western Europe in that.
That's still going on here. Western Europe is, I think, about 80 to 90% is family farm.
Okay, so it's very similar to North America.
Yes. It's very comparable to what's happening here.
Okay. Lenny, I know you got into it quite a bit, but I'm trying to show the range of structures we have here. So, very simply, equivalence.
Okay. We're not really a corporate farm, and we're not a family farm. I would call it a co-op farm. We don't have shareholders. The farm is owned by the kibbutz, which is the community. And if you want any part of the benefits of the dairy farm, you have to be a member of the kibbutz. In other words, someone on the kibbutz can't sell his shares to someone else. I would almost say it's like it would be a large family farm, because the people who are working on the dairy are people who live in the community. So obviously we know each other and we're very connected to each other, but it's not a family-owned farm. I don't own the farm, even though I work on it, any more than my neighbor does, who has nothing to do with the farm except for the fact that he's a member of the kibbutz.
Let me ask you this, because when you first told me about this, my first impression was a cooperative, which most people in this room understand what a farm cooperative is. Let me ask you this: most farm cooperatives, in their structure, are non-profit entities because it's their members that they're there to serve. The entity is actually structured as a non-profit. Is it kibbutz, or is your kibbutz structured as a non-profit?
It's definitely, the way it works is that it has to be self-sustainable, and you have to make sure that you have enough income to be able to invest.
Yes,
absolutely, yeah. But whatever profits come out of the dairy go to the kibbutz. In other words, if I have a better year, I'm not going to be making more money than I would unless my board decides to get some kind of dividends for excelling in what we're doing. But for whatever profits we make from the dairy, those profits go to the kibbutz. And then, of course, every year I have to bring an investment and get that money back, so that I can sell that money back to invest in yours is, I would call it a traditional family structure, but is your operation incorporated?
Yes, we have actually started out as a traditional family structure, as a sole proprietor. In 1981, we formed Inc., Twin Birch Farms Inc. That operated until my dad wanted to get out. And then we formed an LLC, currently operate under an LLC.
What is an LLC?
It's a limited liability corporation.
What's the difference between that and an incorporated liability?
We were a sub-S corp, which is very similar, but sub-S corps aren't killed. They don't go away very easy. This LLC is very similar to a partnership. All tax flow back, but it does limit your liability. And I've never even known the house I live in. One of the entities owns it, so even though I was sold, maybe shareholder, I don't really own it.
So you actually changed your structure from the typical incorporated structure to an LLC, and it's worked out better for you?
No, that's correct. The tax laws changed, and there was some other reasons, more flexibility in an LLC. So that's what current, unless there's some extenuating circumstances, most people who farm with an LLC, there's very few regular aids that farm.
The core of your operation is still blood family.
It's changing rapidly, so it's not. Like my dad mows lawn in the summertime, but I manage the farm. I have a junior partner who's non-family who runs the farming operation. I have another person who has become a junior partner, profits interest partner is what we call it. And he runs the dairy, and we're going to share the profits with growing the business.
Your operation is changing away from the traditional family farm. It is evolving away from it.
It is. It's evolving away from it because the
the farms have grown to the point that every family is not going to have somebody that wants to be a farmer, and so it's going to be very difficult to keep that going. So what we're doing is we set up what they call a dynasty trust. Right now, about 30% of the assets reside in this dynasty trust. Our intent is to move more of those assets into this dynasty trust. So when I pass away, this trust will be there, and these junior partners will be able to use the assets of the trust, reap the rewards of the profits of that to a limited amount. I'm going to make them fit.
That's a very formalized succession plan.
It's formalized, and it's also very flexible too. But they'll be able to farm this entity will be out there to use their assets because these farms are getting so expensive. It's just I'm just getting to the point where I've got what I want or I wanted, and now you got to figure out how to get rid of it. Without it being taxed away. It's just values and everything.
I'm glad you're wrapping that up because that's the next where I'm going to go from here. I'm going to pass this on to Tom. Tom, a traditional family structure, or how traditional really is it?
I think our farm is very traditional. My brother and I are shareholders in the corporate entity, and that's how we operate it now. Going into the future, once we decide which family members are interested in farming, we will then make a plan to transfer over.
Do you have any sons or daughters, or does your brother have any that are planning to come in at this point?
My children are both off the farm, both have very good lifestyles off of it, and may not come back. I've given them another 4 years to make up their mind. At that time I'll be around 55, well 56 let's say. And then if they make that decision not to come back, they can't go back on it, because my brother does have a son that is very interested, and we will then start transitioning away from some ownership towards my nephew.
Brian, a traditional farm in all senses of the word?
No. We have two corporate entities on our farm. There's Apple Farms, which is the farm itself, and then there's Apple BioMeat, which is the digester. So it's a separate entity.
Which is an energy company.
Which is an energy company, and for tax reasons we needed to create a second entity so that the farm was totally farmed. The accountants tell me that if I have too much off-farm, which will be the energy company, that it would affect our flexibility as a farm. So it had to be spun off into another entity. Basically, we are, Wendy and I are the owners of the farm, and of the shares of the corporations. The kids have some of the shares in the BioMeat, and we're working on the transition. My son-in-law is there, and my son is there as well. So we're working on some transition succession planning, and it's interesting when you get into the what is a corporate farm. And the other night at curling, one of the girls was complaining about, well, this was back in fall, she was complaining about following the combine down the road. And she says, it must be one of those corporate farms out there. And we said, well, we're a corporate farmer, but we're also a family. But this had to be a big corporate farm. Well, I have a big combine, and this is what we have to have. And she had no idea, she just blamed everything on a corporate farm, and corporate farm was a bad word. But when you explain it to them,
I find it interesting that a lot of people, when they say corporate, and this is a large percentage of the population, they segregate corporations from people, as if corporations are bank vaults and letterhead. So a corporate farmer is almost an oxymoron to a lot of people. We have a very wide range of structures here. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, we like to say we're
we're still a family farm, but they're just 25 families that make a living off one farm. It makes it more efficient. We can specialize it. So just more of us.
Yes.
We're just not all the same people.
You brought up a very interesting point. I was going to bring it up later, but let's get into it now. We found out last year at the Volvo Dairy Summit, everybody in this room understands how the value of land has increased exponentially in the last 5 to 10 years. That is not unique to Ontario or Canada or North America. It's happening all over the world. Let's start here. Let's talk about how and why land values have increased in the last 5 to 7 years in this area. Brian, we'll start with you, and let's get across land values. Here's also what I want to bring into this. How are these large jumps in land values going to affect, and are they affecting your operation right now, either positively or negatively?
Here in Ontario, we have about $16,000 to $18,000, or this part of Ontario, we have $16,000 to $18,000 is a typical price. It will push over the $20,000 to $22,000 an acre if it's close to a neighbor or a couple of neighbors who really need that land. Competition has driven prices very high, and for a farm changing hands from one family to another or out of a family, it's very hard for young people to get involved. I would say that the success of the dairy industry has enhanced that ability to pay those large prices for supply managed, but as well the general competition and the limited land base has pushed our prices quite high.
Do you think the increase in land values has actually put a competitive edge between generations here? Older farmers, active farmers that don't have anybody coming up but are still interested, because they have the money, put it into land, whereas a younger farmer says, I can't compete with Uncle George.
It certainly has made our pencil sharper. In the last 5 years, the productivity that we see on the farm, just even in crop yields, in dairy yields, in production per cow, have jumped sharply. Because I think that every year the land base, you have to get more out of those dollars that you're spending. And you're actually pushing everything, your crops and everything, to give you a maximum return all the time. And I think that, the generations are having. It's hard to get in, but I think it's still possible, and you just have to have a very sharp pencil.
Tom, we know that land values have always been relatively high in your area, the Fraser Valley area of BC. Have you noticed that even more so in the last few years?
Well, the Fraser Valley is a very small place. If you sit in Abbotsford, you can go 45, 50 minutes. You can go from the east, from Abbotsford west. You can go from Abbotsford east, and that's the end of the valley. We're about 6 to 12 miles wide, U.S. border in the mountains. Everybody wants to live in the Lower Mainland. Everybody wants in the world buying houses in Vancouver. The people in Vancouver buy houses our way. We bought 16 acres. It's a nice piece of property. Road access, nice paved road, flat land. $750,000 5 years ago. We could turn around and sell that for $1 million easily.
But your farming operation, could you even expand it if you wanted to? In terms of land use.
We can't pretend to buy land for farming purposes. We buy land for investment purposes. We know if we buy land tomorrow, it'll be up in 5 years from now, unless the whole world collapses, it'll be worth more. And when we buy land, we try to, if it's close to us, we'll try to buy it. There's a farm across the road from us, 35 acres, a tree farm owned by a guy, and he said to us, we're going to put it to blueberries. I want $1.6 million for it. If we don't, 35 acres, bare land, triangular piece, not the nicest piece of land. He said, if you don't pay that price, we offer 1.4. If you don't pay the price, it goes to blueberries. He put blueberries in last fall, but we refused to pay. Now the farm down the road, $65,000 an acre, just asking price. So for us, and there will be a farm right next door to us, 77 acres, and he's going to want $3.5 million, $4 for it. And it's very, very hard to buy land unless you have a lower debt structure. You just put a big gulp in the land every once in a while. So, and it makes succession planning very, very hard because the price of the land are what I can't afford to buy myself out. If my children don't want the farm, I have to leave money in the farm in my brother's family because there's no way he'll ever be able to buy me out for $100.
Your operation now in terms of land base, I think you said is 2,500 acres. Do you plan on, is it feasible to buy more land, or is it feasible for a young neighbor to buy land from you? What are land values in your area of New York State?
Well, I was selling at a buyer. The values in New York State are not what they are here, what we've heard so far. You know, we've come up a long ways. I mean, 10 years ago, you could buy quite a lot of land for $1,200 an acre, but now it's up $8,000 an acre. I think the most we've ever paid is like $3,500 3 or 4 years ago. We usually get.
So your land values have doubled in the last tripled in the last 5 to 10 years.
Right. You know, we used to be quite aggressive if the farm comes up, especially if it borders us, we try to find a way to buy it. And, you know, we like to be in a position to take advantage of opportunities when they come. I think we'll buy more if the opportunity comes. It's what we don't have the land, we can't have more cows, can't grow. We feel we get a little stagnant if we don't grow. That is good. Keeps us sharp.
Lenny, once again, I think you're in a little bit of a different situation. Land values, how do you even value land? I'll let you take it from there. It's a different can of worms altogether.
Well, Israel's a very young state. We're only 65 years old. And basically, there really isn't any land that's privately owned. All the land that's given for agriculture is actually government owned. So you can't really buy land. In fact, there are very, very few what I call here family farms in Israel. You could probably count them on one hand. All the farms are basically structured as either a kibbutz cooperative, or there's another concept that's called a moshav. You heard that families have their own pieces of land, not like on the kibbutz that everyone owns it. Everyone owns their own piece of land, but that was land that was given to them by the government. So if anyone wants to go out of farming, he can't just sell the land to whoever he wants to.
Well, it's not his to begin with.
Exactly. It's sort of a long-term lease. And the government is very careful to make sure that if you've received land to farm, that's what you're doing. Not that you're building an apartment building or a supermarket center on it. If this is land that the government gave you for farming, that's what you have to do. You can sell your farm, you can sell your quota, but you can't sell the land. That the government will take back and it will decide how to redistribute.
Bram, in the Netherlands, in Western Europe, we know that expensive land for agricultural purposes or for anything is certainly nothing new. In terms of farming of the next generation coming in, is it even possible for anybody to even begin to think of coming into agriculture from outside to begin farming in the Netherlands and starting, we'll say, from scratch? Is it even possible with land values? What are the land values in the Netherlands?
It's not happening. But very occasionally, when you have this family who is coming in and taking a new operation. But what happened in the last year, our land prices are, when I converted to acres and dollars. And our leasing is at around 25,000 per acre.
48,000 per acre. I thought it'd be higher than that.
And the deal is a very low leasing due to the fact that it's not always suitable for animal land. But as soon as it's suitable for cash crops, animal land, and it is growing up until in the poultry, for example, to more than $50,000 per acre. And what happened the last few years is that we were aware of what has happened in Denmark, where the land prices were going down 50% due to financial crisis. And everybody was expecting in the Netherlands that the same will happen in other parts of Western Europe. Our construction in the Netherlands is more safe than the Danish, so prices were going down with about 5%. But that now it's rising up again. But I don't expect that prices are going up very strong.
You without that 5% dip that you were talking about, was that maybe more a lack of confidence in the financial sector rather than true land value?
Yes, that's the truth. And so for the next generation, especially on our own farm, we are looking for new ways. So we want to have, if possible, 50% in ownership, 25% in a long lease construction. For example, we have a lease construction with the church, and they want to have 2.1% return on their investment. And then the other 25% we have an annual contracts. These annual contracts are very strong, related to what are the feed prices. So we make every winter time a new calculation. What is the best for us? Or buying feed from outside the farm, or renting land for 1 year. And this is at the moment we decided not to rent any more land because it's becoming too expensive. But that has as a consequence that the part of our forests we have to buy on the market. That we try to solve that good agreement as an animal farm on a long term.
Once again, we have a different situation in some ways. China, your investors really didn't buy and don't own the land that you operate in, do they?
Yeah, correct. We are on a 30-year lease. We're on the original farm for 22 years to go.
Lease.
Correct. All the land in China is owned by the Chinese government. There's no individual. I think there's about 1% of land owned by private individuals. It's all on 70 to 90-year leases. No one knows what's going to happen at the end of those 70 to 90 years. They haven't got the year. And the China's only been around since 1949.
As it's currently exists, yes. So, can you say that the one operation was operated on a 30-year lease, the other was on a 20-year lease? So, I'm just going to speculate, all right? What would happen at the end of the 20 years, or what could happen? Give me a worst-case scenario.
Worst case scenario is we get kicked off in 1 year's time. Sorry, just to clarify something. The original farm is on a 30-year lease. It's been going for 8 years. We have 22 years left to go. Potentially, we can get kicked off that farm within a year because of the city has come to us. When the farm was first set up 8 years ago, we had no villages. We have now got villages on 3 sides. And a lot of environmental pressure. So we're negotiating with the government to move out further into the country.
You actually want to pick up and move the operations, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
So there's some advantages not owning the land, I suppose.
It's a huge problem for us.
Okay. I want to move on to the forage because now that this overall structure, if you don't have the land base, and you really can't support cows unless you start bringing your forage in. We're talking about your production in terms of how do you handle, do you on your operations, Derek, do you grow your own forage on your own land base primarily?
No, just to last year we made about 30,000 tonnes of silage. We had to access that silage from 3,000 individual farmers. We have many farmers we deal with that have 600 square metres, 1,200 square metres of land. It's called one moon, and 6 of them is a hectare, 6 of them is an acre.
So it's quite possible you could buy 2 large round bales from one farmer.
Maybe 2 round bales. Yeah, so the system that has been developed over the years is we deal with about 15 corn buyers, corn silage buyers, and they will collect from their village. China's a village structure. Let's say Dennis is a farmer, I'm the village head. I tell Dennis that's where you're farming, and someone else might farm there, and then it's up to the village head to allocate land accordingly. So our city deals with the village heads, and the village heads deal with the individual farmers. We do not pay the individual farmers, it would be a contractual nightmare.
You pay the village heads?
Correct. And they will distribute it to their village based on the land areas that they have. So in the silage season, every truck is weighed off the farm, into the farm, into our farm, and we test it for dry matter and pay the price, a collected price accordingly.
Okay, well that's only having to do with forage. What about supplements beyond forage? How do you handle that, and what are they?
We can buy them. You guys are buying, we can buy as well in the international market. Anything and everything.
Let's not grain specific.
Most of it's coming out of China. DDGS is out of China. And foragers, we're buying alfalfa from the States. 600,000 tonnes of alfalfa is exported from America to China every year.
All right. Brown, does your operation grow all of its own feed?
For 85%. And 15% we are buying it from outside, especially on the silage mix. What we try to increase is our own feed management, so carbon management, in a way that we have maybe a 10% higher yield. And we do that by not growing maize anymore by ourselves, so that we have one part of the land, say about 70% of our own land is present based on the long term. By receiving it every year, not renewing, but only receiving it every year, and using pesticides, then we do believe that it can increase from 10,000 kilograms of dry matter up until 12,500 per hectare. And then the leased land, we are using it as cash crops that run only with different varieties of grass. Always the newest ones, so that this yield of these newest varieties of grass is increasing with 10-15%.
Lenny, your kibbutz, how much of your own feed ration in total do you grow yourself, do you supply yourself?
Well, maybe if we could get into that, just a comment about Israel itself. We have very little rainfall. Tom mentioned that in his area, rain is about 72 inches a year. So imagine in Israel, the average is about 18 inches of rain a year. So we're talking about a very big challenge of raising crops. All our grains are imported from other countries, and the only thing that we actually grow in Israel are forage and silage. Dairy farmers in general are very focused on dairy farming. What I found very unique when I came to the States visiting farms is that every farmer, even if he's a dairy farmer, is also very involved in what we would call field farming. In Israel, that's not the mentality. In Israel, whoever's a dairy farmer focuses only on the dairy. And any kind of feed that he's getting, he'll buy from other farmers if that's their business. So on the kibbutz, we own 25, or we have from the government 2,500 acres of land. But I I don't have anything to do with growing the crops. There are other people from the kibbutz that are in charge of that. I'll be in charge of what we decide for God and what dry matter. And I can make the proficient decisions. I can also decide whether I want to take the forage itself, but I'm not involved in growing.
And for all intents and purposes, all feed comes from off-site.
Absolutely.
Okay, sir. I will assume what's the percentage of your ration that you bring in?
Probably about 10 to 21% of our food costs is bought, so it's pretty low. We grow most of it.
Is that forage insulage or that 21%? Is that primarily grains?
That would be proteins. All of our energy and all of our forage we grow.
All forages. Okay, all right, but 21%. So explain to me the breakout then. Your supplemental grain ration.
So we'll bring in a mixed feed with the amino acid profile of the meat and the fat and minerals that we included in it. We'll buy trailer loads of canola meal, actually, for protein, and that's about it. We have corn, we have shell corn there, we grind it for the energy part, and we have alfalfa and corn silage.
So would you call yourself fairly traditional in your where your feeding program originates from? For New York State, would you say that you're fairly typical in that?
In New York, we're very traditional. Most all farms in New York grow their own forages. A lot of them don't grow their own grain, but they grow their own forages.
Tom, where was your operation?
Well, we own 200 acres, but about 160 of it's croppable. The rest is driveways or in the river or something like that. We live right on the Prince River. So we make our own size. We rent a lot of land. And that's also a little sketchy because everybody bids for rental land too. And we sometimes have to find our best friends off the land we want to rent. And so it sometimes creates some hard dealings. That's the way it goes. We buy all our hay, which is about 5 pounds per cow per day, and buy all our grain.
And how far afield are you bringing any foraging grains from?
We're very fortunate that our longest haul is 8 kilometer round trip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have land. All our own land is right around the farm. Most of our rental land is next to it. We're one of the larger farms in our area, so we have the ability to sometimes bid a little more for the land than some of the other fellows do. So I know it sounds bad, but that's life in the area.
Which is a fairly small, relatively isolated area. I've been near the Arctic Highway.
I'll give you an example. Half of our forage is corn silage that are not specificated. There was a farm that's going out of business. He's got a 150-acre block. It was before his family probably knew he was selling out. There was 5 guys on the doorstep trying to rent the whole place. So that's all. And we didn't get that bid. So.
Ryan, your feeding program fairly traditional, would you say?
Yes, we're very traditional. We've got most of our land right close to our home farm next door. And, so we grow our forages, grain we produce the corn ourselves, bring in protein similar to dirt as far as that goes. And because our land is all connected together, we need drag hose all of the manure out ourselves.
I want to get away a little bit from production. I want to get back to we could call it the broader, the consumer chain. I want to talk about, in Canada, there's been a strong move toward food source, and what I refer to as food source accountability in recent years across the food industry chain. We tend to refer to these measures as farm to fork traceability, or from a consumer standpoint, it's actually in reverse. They all say, okay, from fork back to farm. What we're talking about here is traceability. Have your government authorities or agencies implemented stricter standards? We certainly have seen stricter standards implemented here in Canada when it comes to traceability. So from your area, has your government implemented stricter standards in terms of your on-farm, on-operation accountability? Dirk, let's start with you.
In the United States, we've been under voluntary traceability for our animals for a while. I think the states have finally come to an agreement. That's been a huge snafu in the United States, a huge snafu. In other words, they haven't agreed on anything. It just hasn't worked out. And the government hasn't been, it's been a big political mess, I guess I should say.
Now you said your animals, but let's talk about the milk.
The milk is, we're tested before every vote is tested. It has been really not seen much change.
In the last 5 years?
In traceability.
Yeah. Really? Okay. Let me ask you this, what do you think of the pool, country of origin labeling, which would affect milk containers? And that has everything to do with traceability.
I think traceability is needed. I think it's harder with milk to trace it. Really,
How so?
How are you going to trace a traceable milk back to the cow it came from, or even back to the farm it came from? We're fortunate enough to make trailers milk. Goes in the plant, but then that gets milks with 5 or 6 other trailers. So, one of the things that I haven't told you, but I'm involved with a group of dairy farmers in New York, 20 farmers. We're building our own plant. And we tend to be, they're large enough farms, so we'll have a similar type system, and there'll be a lot more traceable back to the farm. But in these traditional small farm things, real traceability of milk back to farm is very difficult.
So the plant that you're building, what will be product, the output product?
We're going to break milk down into its parts. We're going to sell cream separately, and we're going to make MCPs and milk protein esters.
Now, if you're going to implement traceability, I'll say from the ground up in this plant, why? To add value to the product?
To add value, and I think that's what the consumer is demanding when you give the consumer what they want.
But is it fair if the consumer demands it? They've also got to be willing to pay a little more for it.
Well, we'll see. They want all the stuff, but they don't want to pay for it. There's a lot of technology. They've been developed, and the consumer doesn't want it. They want cheap food, but they don't want to allow the technology to allow the change. So it's real. We're getting a lot of pushback in the United States now about GMO. And this GMO thing has gotten so big.
Well, let me ask you, since you brought it up, okay, RBST. Do you use the RBST hormone on your farm?
Yeah, we do. We currently do. We've embraced technology. We use it. I think we're losing it. I think we'll probably lose it within a year.
Do you think that RBST is going to go by the wayside due to consumer pressure?
Yes, absolutely. Not necessarily consumer, but yeah, I think consumer pressure is going to take it away. And I think the same thing, if we're not careful, could happen to GMO, and it could happen to whatever new technology is coming down.
Okay, this is an interesting area. I do want to touch on. Okay, so let's say consumer that producers bow to consumer pressure and GMO. I disagree. I don't think GMO is the right way. But let's say that they did. Well, what's the alternative? The only alternatives are, we'll call it organic or natural. Is that a true statement from your standpoint?
Well, I don't think natural. I don't think organic. I don't know. It's a really, the world will starve on organic, in my opinion. But
yes,
so people will accept more. I don't know. It's very difficult. We've got to be more active in the communities and to be able to explain some of this technology. Because we've got to be able to embrace the technology in order to continue to get better.
Lenny, I want to go to you, and I want to go back to the original question, and that was, have you seen stricter traceability standards implemented recently in Israel 5 years ago?
I
haven't seen recently, because I think the traceability in Israel has always been strict. It's a small country. I would say that the whole dairy farming business is one big family. We only have 120,000 cows in all of Israel, so it's very easy to trace back to the milk. We have no hormones. I remember that when I used to tour farms in the States, and they'd ask me about our milk production, and I would give them the numbers, and they'd say, well, you must be using BST, and I'd say, no, we're not allowed hormones. And the milk, every tanker that goes out of the dairy farm is traced back to the farm. So all the milk plants know exactly where they're getting the milk from, and if there's any kind of problem with the milk, the fines are very, very high.
We should put this in perspective. Israel has a total population of 8 million people. That's a lot of people if you consider the size of the country. It's not a very big country. But then how many individual dairy operations do you have in Israel? Can you put a number on that?
Yeah, there are about 165 what we would call cooperative dairies, kibbutz dairies, and they're running at about 350 cows per herd.
True, but that you said 165, which is a manageable number to oversee.
Absolutely. That's why I'm saying that traceability isn't really an issue in Israel, because it's easy to do it.
Okay, now, on the issue of GMOs, we found out last year, up here on stage, the issue of GMO in Western Europe, in some countries in Europe, many countries in Europe, is not an issue. It's illegal. Genetically modified organism in terms of food is illegal. Where does Israel stand on the GMO issue?
Frankly, it's not there yet. I don't even know. If you wouldn't tell me, I wouldn't know what GMO is.
Genetically modified organism in terms of it has those oh boy, here we go. Yes, you're importing feed, so obviously it's not illegal to import it. All right, okay. See, in Wales, this came up last year. In Wales, no GMO, none, illegal. Next subject. Brown. Okay, I'll carry on with Brown on this issue.
GMO is illegal. This is not for discussion. The traceability of the components of the milk is already organized for years, fairly strict. It goes so far due to the fact that 2/3 of Dutch milk production has to be exported. And for example, Japanese people are asking, clients are asking, what is the quality of the air which is used in the dryers for milk? Unbelievable. But we have to fulfill these requirements, and we do that. But now is a new discussion, and that is what's going on, the way milk is produced. So about sustainability and the use of antibiotics. So we have to reduce the use of antibiotics with 50% in the next 6 years. And also about animal health, animal welfare. They are tight stalls are forbidden in the Netherlands.
Loose stalls only.
Only loose stalls. And what's going on also now is that are completely new programs about the way of producing milk coming up from the cooperatives, and they are doing it all together. So the total Dutch sector is acting in the same way on that point. And also the use of manures and fertilizers is very, 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 very strict. I cannot understand everything.
Brian, in your opinion, do you think there's going to be, in your lifetime, a turnaround on the stance of GMOs in, well, let's just talk about the Netherlands, because obviously there was an issue that just came up in Europe, and a lot of people here in the audience believe that without genetic modification, the one used, the world will starve. You've never had GMO.
GMO is effective.
I'm sorry?
GMO is even in Western Europe effective. because when you are producing cheese and you are make use of GMO, because I don't know the English word, it's fancy, the stuff you are using to make the cheese.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that is GMO. But I don't believe that it never will be accepted that they are using hormones for producing milk. There is now started up last 3 months a discussion about using hormones for bringing them in meat. And so people are speaking about that this will be forbidden. But I don't know what's exactly the result, because they do now first research how much it is. But we have to be aware that this is coming up now.
Eric, the whole GMO issue in China is really not an issue from the opposite standpoint, is it?
The only quality stuff I can put GMO in is our cropping. We're not allowed to have GMO crops. Beyond that, I don't know, honestly, I don't know the rules and regulations for GMO products.
Well, but you are importing crops from where? Or feedstuffs, let's say feedstuff. Where are you importing from?
Everywhere.
Every world. So obviously, it exists. The whole area of the United, it does exist.
I think they turned back a couple of shiploads of corn 2 months ago. Did anyone read about that? There was allegedly GMO corn in there. But there's rules, and then there's how the rules are interpreted, and then it's how the local government officials interpret the rules. It's very vague.
Time is moving on here, because I do want to open the floor, but I want to finish up in one line here. I want to keep this fairly broad. What innovation or new approach on your operations in terms of management or technical, environmental, it's very broad, otherwise, have you implemented in your own operations or management operations recently, say in the last couple of years? I want to keep this fairly recent, okay? Have you implemented that you believe have, in large part, been successful in your operation? All right? So, in terms of implementation of technology or management structure or style, you're very pleased with as managers. Brian, I want to start with you.
Well, obviously we've done the biogas plants, and we're pleased with the results we've had so far. Sometimes dealing with authorities, there's like pounding your head against the stage here because they don't move very fast, but we're getting there, and we're pleased with the product that we've led the cows with. It's more comfortable for them. From a cattle standpoint, we seem to be getting more production all the time. This group, I don't think it's any one thing, but I think that everything combined, we seem to be getting more production for cows, and from our crops as well, we get more production.
Would you be willing to tell us, Brian, in the last 5 years, if there's something that you've implemented that has not, in your opinion, successful on your operation? Maybe everything's worked.
I really think that most of what we've done, we're pretty happy with. So,
fair enough. Tom, what's really gone well?
What's really gone well is just the whole management structure of our farm. We turned it over from 2 brothers being my NIALCO managers to a nephew and a key employee being the go-to guys every day. As my brother helped a couple of years ago, so he's taking more vacation time, and I'm on the road probably 25% of the time, probably 30% of the working weeks. And as far as it's still running well, in fact, the farm's running. The kid would say better, so I guess that's a good thing. Ultimately, they don't need us apparently unless they really get stuck. And on the other side of it, we implemented because we're getting stricter manure regulations and we have so much manure on a very concentrated we found we're killing our grass fields by spreading vast quantities of manure during the summer months on the grasslands. So we put in a manure separation system. So only liquids go on the grassland, and the bedding, the green bedding goes to the compost stalls. So that saves us some money. Selling the stalls off at a lot of
Any regrets? Anything that you've implemented that have not, at least to this point, worked out as well as you?
The only regret I've ever had that when you just don't buy enough quota all the time, you know.
You don't buy enough quota.
Yeah, but, you know, it's like in the last 5 years, I thought it's too expensive. The last 5 years ago, it's still relatively cheap, and so in the last 3 or 4 years, it's tougher.
Dirk, what's worked really well for you?
I have to agree with Tom. We turned over. About 5 years ago, I kind of hit a management wall. I got too old to deal with all the crap all the time, I'd say. And so, I turned over management to a couple of young partners, and stuff just seems to shed off them a lot better, and they're doing really good. A little bit of guidance, they do really well. It allows us to get away. Just have to be come to Canada. So I don't know. I'm not too smart, but one thing that hasn't worked well, and you're going to have some failures. One of the junior partners I had, and he just didn't improve and show the ability to lead team. So he's still employed by us. He still is part of the farm, but he's no longer profit interest. So to try some of this stuff, it's not all good, but you have to revamp.
But you made a change there, though. You actively made that change.
Yes.
I would not say that's a failure. I would say that was an action that needed to be done.
Well, it was, but it was. I thought that it was a failure. I didn't choose the right person. On the farm side of it, we put activity monitors on our heifers, and that's been really successful. I think people that are considering for their dairies ought to consider for their heifers first. I think it's better on the heifers than it is on cows, because at least on our farm.
Why? Tell me why you think it's been so successful. How do you gauge it? Why?
Consumption rates up to about 40%. Right. 40%. The heifer barn is kind of away from our main facilities and really lacking people being there very much. So it's been it's been a small thing that's been wildly successful. I don't know how successful it's been, but we started genomically testing our calves. Calling out about 10%. So we're probably going to start using sex semen on 20% or something. We're trying to improve our genetics faster way.
So Ontario Holsteins will be a bigger part of your world.
No, I didn't say
Ontario Holsteins will. We do sell breeding stock here.
No, I don't know. I get enough heifers by calling heifers.
Lenny, what have you done in the last as a manager on your operation here that's worked out very, very well for you in the last couple of years?
Well, I would say also that people management is something to be very proud of. If you have someone that can actually build up and train and they can be there to switch you. It's interesting to see people from all different parts of the world. And the first thing you said, that's more of the same success. We were lucky enough and we invested enough energies and that they really basically says like sitting here being succeeded by somebody who's been working with me for the last 8 years, and he's about the age of my oldest son, and he'll start managing the farm in another half a year. So if I were to be asked what's my biggest success over the last few years, is that I've been able to build a new team to run the farm. As far as the cows go, Israel has always been very high tech, and
and gaining data on the cows. I've had mechanics and milk meetings for years. But I would say the two things that we've invested in that have been very successful is more animal welfare, investing more ideas in cow comfort, and also, of course, the environment. How to take care of the manure. We're not so into gas yet, but we've been a lot of innovations in these on how to take care of the manure and how to keep it in, that it doesn't turn into a big mess.
Would you be willing to share with us anything that you've implemented that didn't work out as well as you thought it might work could?
I was thinking about it since you asked Brian, I can't think of it.
You've got some wonderful managers.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting there.
Graham, what have you implemented that you're not too happy about?
A lot. The most stupid thing we have done is starting with biogas, having a digester. We kicked it out again after 5 years due to the fact that the market circumstances totally changed. Everything changed in 5 years, so we made a huge loss on that. Second is that we started with an automatic feeding system, and we kicked it out again due to the fact that there's not having enough capacity, and maintenance costs were too high.
How did you learn
But we are successful in introducing the young robots, and we are now very strong focusing on the KISS method. And KISS is keep it stupid simple. That's really important for us, and we try to do it as much as possible in a way that also with our technical and financial results, we are developing together with accountants a system that we are taking in cockpit, and we have only green and red lights. And it means if it is green, you have to do nothing. If you have a red light, push the red button, and then you can see what's behind it and what you have to improve. For example, graffiti cost, for example, your insemination cost, or your technical visuals on lifetime of cars. And this works well out because now we will have a system already. We have a circuit system for 1 year and for 5 years ahead, and we are following it mostly by keeping in all the data as much as possible automatic. And then, for example, next week I do have the results of the month of January 2014. And then I know already what is the forecast for the end of the year. And during the year I can take my measures, especially for the activity management. Well, I know now already, for example, in the month of September, that it is difficult to have enough liquidity. I can take my measures now already to reduce these risks by making good agreements with your suppliers. So in the month of September, you don't buy new machines. This works really well out. And then also that's one. And the second one is to improve the grassland management and make it measurable, so that you have really good data to see what's going on and what you have to expect.
Eric, production, I know that you're primarily the production manager in your operation. What have you done in the last couple of years? It's working very, very well, and you're quite proud of it.
I've only been on the farm for just on 10 months, but I think one of the big things we've progressed on is getting a decent profit management structure for the company, and that's flowing right down to the farm staff. And the other big thing I'm pretty proud of is we're not environmentally compliant, but we're a lot better than what we were a year ago. There's a lot of pressure on us to improve our environmental management, and it's a huge issue for us. The farm is designed incredibly poorly.
So on the environmental side, so when you came to the operation 10 months ago, give us a word. What was the situation then, and just illustrate what is the situation today? How is it improved?
The worst time for us was the summer, because in the summer all the land is in corn, and we're in the corn belt of China. Manure dumped in rivers, ponds, rock holes, wherever, walk away. Totally unacceptable. This year we leased more land and we spent manure on the land and we have 6 concrete trucks working 24 hours a day in the summer just shifting manure for us.
Yeah, it's not worked out so well.
Chinese lessons. Chinese language lessons. And my love life. 0 and 0.
They have an app for that. Okay, alright, so I want to open up the floor. Does anybody have a question? I'm sure there's a number of them. Does anybody have a question for our panel? By the way, let's give the panel a hand. We do have a 4 microphone, so if anyone has a question, oh, there we go, yes sir. Count to 3 and see if it's on. There should be a little switch on that somewhere. Yep, just put your mouth up close. Well, just put your mouth up close.
Thank you very much. And I was wondering about your current production and what your production was for the next month. The whole panel.
Yeah, the question was, what is current production and what is our goal for the next 5 years? We're averaging about 30 kilograms of lettuce per day. We'd like to get that up to, I believe that we're missing about 5 kilograms that we can get, mainly through increasing forage quality. Our silage is not acceptable. And also we're setting up a new farm in southern China. It's a lot hotter, a lot more humid. So, we're not expecting that sort of production for down south, so maybe 28, 29 for down south.
Alright. Well,
our production is not so high, it's about 28 kilograms a day, but we see it in a bigger perspective. What are the costs for these 28 years? And the margin per liter is for us much more important as the yield per cow. We try to have them low cost as much as possible. And the ideal situation is that we want to increase milk production no more than 30 or 30 liters, no more. Because otherwise it is too expensive. We have to buy veterinarian costs in our situation. And we are admiring the KISS method, so keep it simple, keep it food simple, and try to do as much efficiently. So use as much as possible your own grassland. I told already before that we make a difference between grassland production, animal production, and milk production. Then you will see that milk production is not leading always. It is the combination of the three. That makes sense for us in our situation to go much higher.
Lenny, where's your production now? Where will it be you hope?
We're doing about 42 kilos a day throughout the year. So honestly, production per cow is not what I'm thinking about in the future, but more much more milk we can actually produce per farm, because the only 2 countries in the world today that still have a quota system are Canada and Israel. So I think we've reached the peak, at least on my farm. We're not interested in producing more milk per cow, and I agree with Ron that at some point when you try to produce too much milk it becomes expensive. I know that we're about 10 kilos higher, but we could even produce more. And I made a management decision that we're not going to go over that 42, because to produce more than that, it really would not be cost effective. So what we're trying to do
do is gain more quotas to actually expand the amount of milk we produce.
I'd like to clarify what the points that Glenn just made with this. Israel has a system in place with its dairy, not with anything else other than dairy, not chicken, not egg production, but they have a system that's probably as close to Canada's supply management system as any country is. They're not exactly the same. The Israel system and Canada's dairy system have a lot of similarities, and they know it. Europe?
Well, we produce about 90 pounds per day per cow. We're milking, our golden herd average is 30,500. We've increased overall production about 8% a year over the last 20 years. I'd say half of that's due to growth and half is due to increased production. I don't really see too much reason why we can't continue that trend.
On our farm, we're currently in between 36 and 38 kilograms a day average, with between a 3.7 and 4 fat. We've dropped our production a little bit in the last 4 or 5 years because we've expanded our barn and haven't gotten our quarter fill it quite yet. We wanted to really drive down our feed costs, and by adding more and more forage and just see how low, especially with the high grain costs the last number of years, is increasing our forage quality to get the milk from the forage. So we have planned on increasing our production. Over time, the genetics and hopefully better forage will allow us to increase it.
Right?
We're about a 35 kilo average of 4.3 and 3.5. It's interesting you talk about Lenny's system where it's getting all this milk, but you're not looking for butter fat. Our quota system is based on kilos of butter fat, and theirs is based on kilos of milk. So it's the same, but
There's similarities.
We're planning on continuing to increase our production of cow as well, but
Ladies and gentlemen, our time is just about up. It's about 10 minutes after 2. And your guest panelists, we would thank them for their engagement and participation. By the way, they're all going to be around, so I'm just going to run them down. So we have from Israel, Lenny Kaplan. We have Derek Settle from China, Brian Prinz from the Netherlands, Dirk Young from New York State, Tom Houdendorf from British Columbia, and Brian Anderson from here in Ontario. Ladies and gentlemen, your International Global Dairy Panel. And looking at the Global Dairy Summit would not be possible without the active support and engagement of Sergey and the Traco company Feeding the Future. I'd like to bring up Bill Woodley and Dave Crossett of Sergey to the stage to give